All right, so good afternoon, everybody. I think we are just about ready to get started now. So we're going to jump straight into it. Before we do, just a couple of introductions. So my name is Chris, and I am an account manager here at Decisions. And with me, I've also got Kevin as well, who's also an account manager. And we're going to be presenting to you today for this webinar. So let's jump into it then. And thanks very much for taking the time to join. A couple of bits of housekeeping before we get started. So if you do have any questions, then feel free to drop them into the Q&A section in the Teams webinar chat there. Either myself or Kevin will answer it in the chat. If it's a question that we think is a good question for the whole group, we might also answer it out loud as well. And review that. Don't feel like you need to wait until the end. Feel free to drop them in at any point, and we'll try and pick those up as we go along, but we will also leave a section for Q&A at the end as well. In terms of what we're going to be covering today, we're going to be talking about compliance and how you can use AI to meet compliance. We are aiming this webinar at 3 industries really: construction, manufacturing and energy. There is a lot of compliance that runs in a similar thread in those 3 industries. So we're going to kind of focus on those 3 industries and some legislation across them. We're going to look at 5 examples of some acts that have come out in the last 2 or 3 years. There are 5 common threads between those acts that we're going to look at. And then we're going to drill down into how you can use AI to be more compliant and how you can meet those regulatory requirements. Then we're going to actually show you how you can do that in Decisions. So Kevin is then going to take over and he's going to share Decisions and show you the app and actually walk you through how you can use Decisions to be more compliant. And then we'll leave some time for some Q&A at the end. So let's jump into it. So first of all, let's take a look at 5 recent compliance acts that you are most probably aware of if you're on this webinar, and you're probably looking at ways that you can stay more compliant among them. So the first one is really related to construction, and it's the Building Safety Act, also known as the Golden Thread, which basically tells you that you need to have the life cycle safety data throughout a project. You need to be able to look at the golden thread of information as it threads back through a project's life cycle and be able to show and demonstrate that information was recorded throughout that project. The second one is the Procurement Act, where it's required that you need to have complete transparency in any supplier selection process. There's a lot of people on this webinar who are from public companies. And if you're a public company, this is going to be particularly relevant for you, making sure that you can show documentation for any tenders. The third one is ECCTA, failure to prevent fraud, which probably relates to pretty much everybody on this call. You've got to be able to demonstrate that you've got robust controls and procedures to prevent fraudulent activities across your operation. The Fire Safety Regulation Act 2023, which talks about things like mandatory fire door inspections, comprehensive reporting requirements for all commercial properties. So how do you show that you have planned in those inspections, and how do you then demonstrate what actions were taken off the back of those? How do you use AI to do that? And then the Sustainability Procurement Regulation, which recently came out, which shows ESG reporting is mandatory in tender processes. How do you show that you have documented environmental and social impact assessments, and is there any way that you can use AI to streamline that process? I think what's really clear, and hopefully you see from this side, is that the volume of legislation is rising, and you probably feel that every year. And in every act, it demands comprehensive auditable evidence of compliance. So hopefully by the end of this webinar, you will be able to see how AI can help you in that. It's not a kind of a silver bullet, but it definitely will help you streamline your operations in order to be more compliant in these areas, but also in things like ISO compliance, GDPR as well. So I think from reviewing this, we can see that there are a few common compliance demands that run through all of these acts. And what we're going to do is we're going to take these 5 common compliance demands and we're going to talk about them and then show you exactly how you can use the AI to meet them. So the first one is that they all require comprehensive audit records. So you need to be able to show detailed documentation of all decisions, processes and outcomes that can withstand regulatory scrutiny. The second one is traceability. You've got to be able to show a clear audit trail, being able to show who made decisions, when they were made and why they were made and the rationale behind them. And that's a common one amongst those acts. Third one that we're seeing an increasing requirement for is board level accountability. It's common that senior management can be held personally accountable for this regulation and these acts. So if you're on this call and you're board level, you're going to want to make sure that you've got oversight of everything that's happening in the business, and you've got to know that people are meeting those compliance, that compliance, and all of those activities are being managed properly. So it's really about that governance. The fourth one is evidence of control. So this is just simply that you've got to prove that you have compliant systems. And one of the great things about the rise of AI recently is that being able to use AI to prove that you have these systems and incorporate AI into those systems is becoming easier. So we'll talk about that. And then finally, you've got to be able to do all 4 of the above, but you've got to be able to do that securely. So there's a lot of AI tools out there that you can use in meetings that are not secure. There's a lot of AI tools that you can use for your meetings that come in and join as a bot and record the meeting and store the data from that meeting and the conversations and the recordings on a third-party server. You may have seen in the news that there are some recently there have been some very popular AI bot tools which have had data leaks. So it's really important that you consider that whenever you're using AI. So we're also going to talk about data security as well. So before we go into it and before we actually show you decisions and how it works and how you can use it to meet compliance, a little bit of an overview for you. So decisions, we were created about 10 years ago, and we are a Microsoft integrated third-party app. We are used by organizations of all sizes to help streamline and reduce the amount of waste there is in their meetings. So we were born out of some of the facts and the figures that you can see on the screen in front of you here. We know that meetings are one of the processes in your business that have the most amount of waste. And I'm sure everyone sat on this meeting can relate to this, the amount of time that you sit in meetings, particularly if you're kind of executive level. On average, the average CEO spends about 72% of their work week in meetings. The average employee spends about 57% of their work week. So if we can find ways to make those more streamlined and reduce the amount of time it takes you to do those, then you're massively reducing the amount of waste in your business. So that's what we're aiming to do. And we've used and incorporated AI in our platform for the last 2 years now. And AI really has been a game changer when it comes to meetings and reducing the amount of time that it takes to prepare for, run, and then follow up on your meetings. So let's go back to those 5 compliance requirements that run through a lot of those recent acts. And we'll look at how you can use decisions in order to meet them. And then we'll actually give you some examples of how that works. So the first one there was audit ready records. So every regulation demands documented proof of decisions and actions. With decisions, you can use AI minutes and AI actions, where using the transcript from Teams, it's going to automate the capture of discussions, decisions, and follow-ups, so that when you are then audited and asked for documentation, it's very easy to go back and produce that because you can use AI to do that for you. The second one is complete traceability. You need to be able to show what was decided, when, and why it was decided. With decisions, you're able to export action logs and export decision logs, so that whenever you're audited, you can go back in time and you can show for a project life cycle or for a particular customer, you're able to demonstrate and easily show all of the decisions that were made and link those to minutes. And all of that can be automated through AI linking within your teams. The third one, senior level accountability. Boards have got to be able to have that oversight. With decisions, you're able to, in a single pane of glass, have a look into all of the meetings that happen below you in the meeting hierarchy, be able to click into them, see what decisions were made, and view the minutes. Even if you weren't in the meeting itself, even if they weren't emailed to you, and even if you're not even in the Teams channel that meeting was saved into, you're still able to do that with decisions. So it gives you that complete visibility. The fourth one there is instant evidence. Regulators and auditors expect documentation immediately. And with decisions, you're able to, in one click, produce meeting packs and show agendas, show documentation that was shared and reviewed in those meetings, and provide them when needed. And then the final element is that data security. So you've got to make sure that you do all of that in a sensitive way. As I mentioned earlier on, we are a fully Microsoft integrated third-party app. What that means for you is that whenever you use decisions, all of the data that you put into a meeting, so any agendas you create, any documents that you share in that agenda, is all stored within your Microsoft SharePoint or OneDrive. So we don't store any data on our servers. We can't see any of your data. We can't read any of it. We don't do anything like use the data to train models. It's all stored in your Microsoft SharePoint. And this is why we're used by some of the UK and Ireland's largest companies, and also public companies, used by the NHS, we're used by the Scottish government, large financial institutions. And whenever you talk to the InfoSec teams, the IT teams that have gone through that evaluation of decisions, often it boils down to the fact that all of the data is stored within their Microsoft environment, so they have full control over it. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to pass over to Kevin, and we're going to jump into a demo. He's going to share his screen and show you decisions, and we'll show you exactly how you can meet those requirements with the platform.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Chris. Now, again, if anyone has any questions, please just fire them into the Q&A. Chris will either stop me during it to either tell me to dig down into something a bit deeper, or else we'll pick it up with the Q&A at the end. So definitely feel free to keep adding to the chat. But now I've just opened up my teams here. So what you can see with decisions, just as Chris mentioned, we are partnered with Microsoft. Everything you do in the decisions is going to be within your Microsoft environment. And for the most part, you're going to be looking at decisions in your Microsoft Teams. We have all of our kind of upcoming meetings that you'll see here. So it's going to sync automatically with your Outlook calendar. And you can come in, and this is where you'll create your agendas and manage all your meetings. So it's really your full meeting platform where you're going to view everything for you. What I've done is I've set up a demo meeting here to have a look, and I want to make sure that what I show you today is really specific to compliance and what we're looking at in this webinar. There is a lot more to decisions as well. So if you're interested in any of the more features, we're very happy to walk through them as well. Okay, so the very first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to create my agenda. Now it's going to ask me, firstly, what Teams channel is this meeting connected back to? And the reason that it does that is, like Chris mentioned earlier, everything that you do with decisions stays within your own Microsoft environment. So if I choose my AH customer channel here, that means now that the SharePoint connected back to that channel is going to be the storage location. Okay, there's also going to be a decision list. It's going to be tasks connected back to that, but everything is connected to that team or that channel. We have a couple of different ways that we can build out agendas. The very first way is to build it from scratch, which looks like this. So I can pop in whatever the agenda item is going to be, who's presenting it, whatever that might be. The other option is to use the AI assistant. When you get started using decisions, you might have some agendas that are already on a Word document or something like that. You can just actually upload that here, and it's going to create it in the system here. Or else you can just tell it what the meeting is about. So you can say this meeting is about X, Y, and Z, and it will create a full agenda for you. And the last option, and one of that is most used in our construction and kind of more compliant, anyone who's worried about compliance in organizations, is the agenda templates. The reason for that is that you can have standardized agendas across your certain types of meetings. So for example, if I choose my templates here, I can have my own private templates that I use across every single team that I work on. So it might be, for example, a certain project or a certain type of appraisal meeting that I have every month. I have a template for that. I can have team templates that are connected back to my channel up here. I can have organization-wide templates as well, or else recent meetings. So what we decided to do for this is we wanted to build a template based on a project that might be relevant to some of you, where you are building a hospital, renovating a hospital. And so we're choosing this webinar template for that here. So some of the items are safety and site conditions, work progress and program, quality and technical issues, procurement, safety, supply chain, all these different things you might see before. So I'm going to firstly save this agenda as a draft. When I save it as a draft, only I can view this and the co-authors. Okay, so the way we manage the co-authors, we'll see here that myself, my manager Will, and Chris are all co-authors here because we are owners of the group. But we can add people to be individual co-authors as well. So say, for example, I want our fake employee, John Doe, to be a co-author. He can become one either just for this meeting or permanently for this channel if needed as well. So it gives a bit more kind of collaboration on the agenda. Now, once we have the agenda built like this using our template, there is still a lot that we can do within each individual agenda item. So I can add a presenter here. So for example, I might set myself to present on agenda item 1. I can attach files directly in here as well. So if I want, I can come in here and we can upload files. So I might put in this one here, add it in. And I can also tag this as well. So if I want, for example, I can say this is going to be tagged with hashtag expenditure. This is a really useful way to go back over an individual project that you're working on. Anything that you tag on a certain meta tag, you can go back and see every single thing that's been tagged with that. So when I save this here and click on my meta tag, you'll see that it's going to bring every single thing that we looked at. So there might be a document that's been tagged with that. There might be a decision or an action or anything like that. So it's all going to be tagged here, also linked to meeting minutes as well. Now, as you saw earlier, I added a presenter on the first agenda item. If I have a guest presenter that's coming on, which is very, very common in some of these projects, I can add them here. So what that might mean, if I wanted to add my colleague Olivia as an example. So Olivia has not been invited to this meeting. She is not part of the Teams channel. So what I'm just doing here is adding her as a guest presenter on agenda item 2. And so that will mean that she can only view agenda item 2. She won't be able to see the document that's been attached up here. If we attach a file here, she will have access to this one only. Now, let's say I put in this file here and add it in. She will only have access to this file, okay? So she won't see any of the other agenda items, any other files. And when we get to the meeting minutes at the end, we can actually decide to just send the agenda item 2 meeting minutes to her as well, okay? Now, if, for example, you have some, restricted files that even though people are joining for the full meeting, they shouldn't see at all, you can actually just restrict the access to the files here as well. So maybe I don't want John Doe to have access on this. If I revoke his access, that's now going to be revoked right across SharePoint. So he won't be able to see this file anywhere. Okay, so that's just a nice way to make sure that everything is secure.
I think just to jump in there, sorry, Kevin, and just bringing this back to compliance, really what these agendas and pre-built agenda templates allow you to do is just have that standardization and consistency that's really important in a lot of compliance frameworks, right? A lot of ISO certification requires you to be consistent and repeatable in your processes. So using agenda templates ensures that every meeting follows a defined structure, covers the same required compliance topics each time, safety, environmental impact, whatever it is. And it just allows you to maintain that. And also, the continuous improvement element, right, of a lot of ISO requirements as well, the PDCA, the plan, do, check, act cycle. You can plan in a plan an agenda. You can then conduct the meeting and record the decisions, check, review the actions and audit reports, and then act, refine the templates and processes, and rinse and repeat that to make sure that you're meeting those ISO requirements. So this is a really good way, and it might seem like a simple way, but a really good way of just ticking off quite a few ways of being compliant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's one of the key things, is making sure that's repeatable, and having these templates makes it super simple to do that. Good point. Okay, so once we're happy with our agenda and we want it to be, visible to other people, what we can do is now we can publish our agenda here, and we can share this. So we can update the meeting invite, so anyone on that meeting invite will be able to see it through a link or through the actual agenda on the invite. And we can notify the guest presenters. So for example, for Olivia, because she was invited for just agenda item 2, we can send her a calendar invite from 10:04 p.m. until 4:25 p.m. That's 3:10 to you. So it would just be that slot that she's actually invited for then. And then you can also just do a couple of different things here. But I'm just going to publish this without sending out any notifications. Olivia might get a surprise if she gets something in her calendar and 10 minutes ago that she was supposed to present on. So we won't do that to her. But now that it's been published, it means that it's visible for other people who want to come in and view the agenda. Okay, so when they come in here to look at their meeting, they'll see the agenda here, and they can open it up and view the full agenda and all the files and everything like that here. They can also now collaborate and suggest onto the agenda as well. So if, for example, they wanted to add an agenda item, so it might be just to look at decisions compliance. Okay, they can attach files, whatever they might want to attach on here. So let's add in this one and send that across. So that will be sent to the meeting organizers here, and then they can decide if they would like to add this to the agenda. So that will approve it and put it directly in. You can reject it with a note to say why it's such a terrible agenda item, or whatever you might want to say is a note here. And then the third option that you have is to move to the meeting planner. And what the meeting planner is a backlog of agenda items that you're saving. So it might be the case that, okay, we don't have time in every meeting to do all of the agenda items, so we can put it directly into the meeting planner. But the next time you're building out an agenda, you just import the meeting planner. We have this decisions compliance here. Next, and I'm going to add that into our agenda now.
Again, this agenda point suggestion, it really strengthens. I mean, in construction, right, you have that golden thread that we were speaking about, the golden thread of accountability, and you have similar compliance regulations in other industries. But when an agenda item is suggested and then included and discussed, it creates that visible chain of accountability. Who raised it, when was it reviewed, what was the decision that was made. So it supports having that accountable person, their duties, and you're able to evidence that to auditors. So this is something that we see a lot of our clients, again, quite a simple piece of functionality, but really, really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the next thing that we're going to show now is going to add to that as well. So the, having the oversight on when decisions were made and who decided on it is really important for all of your industries at the minute. So what you can do within decisions is you can add in a proposed decision here. Okay, so I'm going to add in a new decision. We're going to say it's going to, let's say something very simple like add 10K to a budget, whatever it might be. Okay, I'm just going to do the same for the description now here. What we have here, and this is the way that we have it set up, you can have it set up in a different way, and you can have multiple different parts to this. But what we have is 4 different assigned roles on a decision maker. So the person who's the originator is myself. I'm adding in the decision. And then we need somebody to sponsor that, which is Chris. The person to approve it is John Doe, and then the verifier is Jane. Now you can change the individuals or add individuals on this, but you could have up to 9 different roles on this here. When I add this into our agenda, we'll see that I'm the first person here. I can decide what I want to do. If I can approve it, reject it, or put pending here, I can do that. So once I approve that, Chris is also able to do on his own side if he wants to approve it or reject it, and he's going to have oversight then of this decision. Okay. What's really important about this is that, you know, in terms of compliance and being able to see exactly who has approved it at certain times, you have a really good oversight of all the different individuals on that there.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because there's a piece of ISO governance and it's called the 4 Eyes principle. So it's used by a lot of major contractors. You're probably aware of it, but it basically it's just ensuring that no one person can propose and approve the same decision. So in ISO 9001, there's a clause that you've got to have defined roles, responsibilities, and authorities. So you would have an originator, you know, a sponsor, an approver, and a verifier. So you could have, for example, a site engineer proposes the change as the originator, a project manager reviews and endorses it, they're the sponsor, a project director approves it, they're the approver, and then like a compliance manager verifies it for audit, and they're the verifier. So easy to keep in line with the 4 Eyes principle there.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that then as well, you have a good oversight into your channel here. So if I go into my decisions list here, this is the full decisions log that we have of all the decisions that we made in this channel. Later in the call, Chris is going to show how the director level and managers can look over different channels. But if we want to look at the decisions just for this channel, I can see all these different ones here. There might be one that I need to actually add my own status to, or else there might be different decisions that I've made that are final, and also links to the meeting minutes. This can then be exported. So if you need a full list of every decision that's been made for a certain project or on a certain team, you'll be able to see them all here as well with links to meeting minutes. Okay, perfect. So that is our pre-meeting side of the demo here. We're going to now look at what it looks like after the meeting. So building a meeting recap and meeting minutes. We'll see during the meeting that, you know, our agenda is going to be running here. There should be a little time tracker telling us where we are during the meeting. We can also build out what's called a meeting book. We call it a meeting book because we think it could be used in every single meeting. A lot of people call it board packs. But again, this is really an important thing to have for compliance and looking back over everything that's been done in you know, a certain meeting. So what this is the PDF. Oh, sorry, I've opened it up on the wrong screen here. It'll firstly be a Word document here, and we can decide if we would like to include any extra detail in this or whatever it might be. But it's going to pull all of the different agenda items that we have. It's going to build a table of contents and add in the documents here. So firstly, it creates this Word document. And from this, we can add our text. We'll see that it's first just going to have links here into each agenda item. But once we are happy with it, we're going to merge our files, and this is going to create this PDF version. This is an extremely common one that's used because it's going to have all the different documents that you have for a specific meeting. It's going to be able then to be annotated directly on. If you've got your own private notes that you would like to take on it, you're going to be able to do all of that here. And so once we open this up, I'm going to create this PDF. Important to note on this that once you start to use decisions, you'll have your own kind of templates for this. So if you're working for whatever company you're working for, you'll have, for example, a decisions logo and your own company colors running through it, whatever you like to have. And this is what it looks like. So it's very, very nice. Nice little click down menu on the side. Here's the link to any of the documents that were shared. And then as I scroll down, the documents are here themselves as well. So as I come down, we'll see all the different documents. If, for example, I want to annotate here and find out, okay, well, why is there a slight delay on this? Okay, because it's waiting this delivery. I can have my own private annotations on that, and it can be text, or I can highlight certain text or whatever it might be on this here as well. If I decide, I can actually share my own private annotations. So either on an individual level, I can share one annotation, or I can share my whole meeting book as well that's been annotated. So very useful before the meeting to be able to go through all the documents in one place and see what I need to change or what I'd like to add to them. Perfect. Okay, so now we're on to the post-meeting side of things. My favorite part, the most exciting part, because it saves me the most amount of time, and it's one of the things that get people the most excited as well, is the meeting recap and the meeting minutes. So as we've spoken about a lot before, Decisions doesn't have a bot that will join the call. Decisions uses the Microsoft Teams transcription to create the recaps and minutes. Now, because this is just a demo call here, I've just created a VTT, but normally that would just sync in automatically here. So I'll choose this one and generate the meeting recap. So what the meeting recap is essentially is going to be an overview of what the meeting was. Okay, so effectively it's going to have a paragraph, some key takeaways, any decisions that were made, and some action items coming out of that as well. It's going to be templated in the exact same way every time, so you're going to see it, exactly as you would if you were using it yourselves. And then for the meeting minutes, you can make a more formal Word document if you want it here. It's going to pull it directly to. Now, one of the key points on our meeting recaps is that this is still fully editable before it's sent out. So again, like some of the other AI tools that are out there, they will just either send you a recap directly, or there's no way to edit it and you just get an email sent out. This, I can add text if I want. I can put in whatever I want here. I can delete certain key takeaways if I don't want to have anything about the housekeeping concerns. Maybe that's not relevant to this. I can just delete, or I can add certain action items on this as well if I'd like. And then we have our actions here. So these are assigned to some of our fake employees that we have in for our VTT here. But we can put due dates on this, so it's going to sync then into the Microsoft Planner, and they'll get notifications when their tasks are due here as well. Okay, so we'll see all these different tasks. If there's something that you want to change on it, you can just type in here. So, add a more formal version, translate it if you'd like, include more detail, anything like that. You've got a bunch of different options, or just say you want to say anything at all to change. You just type it in here and it will do that for you. And then once you're happy with it, you can send it out in the meeting chat or send it out as email to all the attendees. You can add extra people. So if I wanted my manager Will to get it, for example, even though he's not part of the call, but he should get the recap, I can send that out to him there. Okay. Now, what's great about that is that once this is sent out, you actually have a button at the bottom of this as well to ask for a personal debrief. So if I open this up in my email here, for example, this is what it looked like as it comes through my email. So here's my full overview of what the meeting was. At the very bottom here, I can get my personal debrief, and that's going to tell me my own actions, my own contribution to the meeting, how much I spoke compared to other people, and things like that as well. So it's a really useful thing to have, review how you were in the meeting. The last point then from my side before I hand it back over to Chris is the meeting minutes. Very similar to the meeting recap. So on the left-hand side here, we have all these different sources that we can pull from. So from the agenda, the transcript that I'm going to add back in here from our demo, any tasks that were there, any decisions that were made, notes. So you can take your own private notes, or if there was any Microsoft meeting notes. And then if anyone was absent, you can just tick them here. Okay. You'll see at the top, you've got the 3 different options: virtual, hybrid, or in person. This is effectively, if you have a meeting that's hybrid, you choose this. If it's a meeting in person, you choose this. You can use the Decisions mobile app if you're in person, and that's going to sync into your meetings then. And it's a really useful way of just being able to quickly create meeting notes. Okay, so really similar to our recap, except it's going to be a much more formal document. So the same idea with the recap. At the bottom, you're going to see I've got a couple of different options. If I wanted to add more detail, if I want to translate or do anything, I can do that here. But once we're happy with this again, we're just going to add this into our Microsoft Word template. Okay, so again, similar to the meeting book, you'll have your template of what you want Decisions AI to look like when you build your meeting minutes. And it's going to pull that straight through. So I know from speaking to a lot of people, I think people on this call as well who've used Decisions, this is something that is important, especially when you're on site or you're working a lot, on a certain project. You need to have meeting minutes. When you have so many calls like you do, actually pulling these together after meeting takes an awful long time, almost as long as the meeting. So having decisions to do this is just really supposed to be the biggest time saver for the types of meetings that you guys are running. So we'll see it's pulled through much more in-depth detail from our transcript here. We even have the information about the decision that only I've approved it so far, and we're still waiting on everyone else. Here I can ask it to change whatever I'd like. But once we're happy, we're going to add it into Word. This is going to pull up our template. Okay. So again, similar to our meeting book, it's just going to have our decision app in here, and it's going to pull everything directly in here into our. Now, there's a really nice workflow that goes alongside here as well. So I can send this to whoever I need to be reviewed, and they can have a look at this before it's finalized. Again, it's still fully editable, so it is still an AI solution. We definitely still, recommend that you read it before it's sent off or finalized. But let's see here, it's much more in depth in the recap. Here's where I send it off to whoever I want to review it before it's finalized, and then by finalizing it, it's going to create a PDF of this here. Okay, so I'm going to create this PDF. And with that, that's going to lock down the agenda. It's going to lock down the whole meeting, so there can be no changes made after this is created PDF. Only the organizer can come back in and unlock that if needs be. And you'll see there's one last button that's become available at the bottom here. This is share the agenda item minutes. So you might remember earlier, I added Olivia as a guest presenter on agenda item 2. So now this is where I can decide, okay, Olivia doesn't get anything else, any of the other meeting minutes, because it's not relevant to her, or maybe it's confidential, but I can decide to just send agenda item 2 to her. And I can even edit this if there's something in it that I don't want her to get, and that can be sent off to her. So that's going to be my part of our demo today. We're going to pass it over now to Chris to show what's called advanced reporting, one of the most exciting things, I think, for construction, energy and manufacturing.
Thanks, Kev. So yeah, one of the key points there on the slide that we looked at, where it was showing the common compliance threads that run through a lot of those acts, is the fact that you need to have that board level oversight. So what I'm going to do is just share my screen again, and I'm going to show you something called advanced reporting. So that requirement, and this is common in ISO as well, it's that the board senior leadership teams need to have visibility to ensure that compliance is being done properly and being adhered to. So what this does is gives access to certain people that you want to give access to, normally senior management, the ability to be able to look into various Teams channels and see all of the meetings that have taken place that have a decisions agenda, be able to view the agenda and be able to see the minutes as well from it. So you can see here what I've done is I've selected a few different teams that we have here in decisions. And once I've selected these, Kevin's channel being one of them, I'm able to see all of the meetings that Kevin is having in there. I can then click in and view the agenda. So if I click there, it's going to open it in a new tab. Now I happen to be on the invite for this meeting, but if I wasn't on the invite, I'd still be able to see this. If I wasn't in the Teams channel, I would still be able to see this. Now this requires a two-way authentication, so I had to request to Kevin to give me authorization. He had to give me authorization to be able to see into his channel. But let's imagine in this scenario that I'm a director and I need to be able to see into Kevin's channel. I can see this agenda here. I can come in, I can view, I can check he's been compliant. I can see, here is our decision that was made. Here's my 4 eyes. I've got my originator, sponsor, approver, verifier. I can see that it's been approved by the originator. We've got 3 to go. I can click in and I can view documents that are attached into the agenda here. And if I want to see the outcome, I can also click in and see the minutes as well. So I can click link to the minutes, and those are the minutes that Kevin ran. So I can come in and view those. I can also view the decision log here as well. So I can click into this and I can see all of the decisions that have been made in Kevin's Teams channel there. So We call this advanced reporting, but it's a great way of giving that visibility from the top down into the meeting hierarchy. Fantastic. So let's flick back into here. So that's advanced reporting, and that's kind of the end of the demonstration there. We're going to open the floor now to comments. We've already had a few, one in the chat that I've answered, and one private Q&A as well. But if you have any questions, then feel free to drop them in the chat. There was one which was asked earlier on, which I think is important, which is around the difference between decisions and Copilot. So if you're exploring AI for the first time, probably Copilot is probably one of the first things that you looked at, and Copilot is a brilliant tool. Obviously, it's from Microsoft, so it's going to be good. So what is the difference between decisions and Copilot? So Copilot is a horizontal AI tool, right? So it helps you do lots of things and is your Copilot for lots of different tools within Microsoft. It can help you create an Excel sheet, right? It can help you do a formula. It can help you build a PowerPoint presentation. It can help you draft an email to somebody, write a document in Word. So it really is a jack of all trades, whereas decisions is a specific meeting management tool, which is AI enabled. So Copilot does have a recap ability in it, where it will create a recap and send it out. Decisions helps you with that entire meeting lifecycle, helps you create the agenda, helps you add documents to it, track it in the meeting, create actions, and then does the recap for you as well. The feedback that we get, and we can maybe post some links to a case study around this, but the feedback that we tend to get is that the recap that Decisions creates moves the needle and is much more operational and more high level, which is what a lot of people want when it comes to projects in construction, manufacturing, and energy. And then the second difference is that you're able to edit the recap for Decisions in situ, so it allows you to be able to actually edit it before it gets sent out, whereas with Copilot you have to copy and paste it into an email and send it out, whereas with Decisions you're able to edit it there and then send it out to even external people or people who weren't even on the Outlook invite. So that's the kind of main difference there of the recap. And then with Decisions you also have the formal minutes that Kevin showed you, where it takes the agenda and it merges it into Microsoft Word. So that's the main difference.
Perfect. Okay, we've no other questions in the Q&A or the chat. If anyone does have a question, you can put up your hand and we can take you off mute. But if there are no more questions, we could probably finish it up a little bit earlier and give you some time back. Oh, I do see someone is typing here, so we'll give them a second to come in. But we'll hang on as well and answer all the questions until everyone is. Oh yeah, not a question, some praise from us. That's fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Okay, guys. Well, look, we'll finish it a little bit early and give some time back in your days. We're all about good meeting practice. So normally when you use Decisions, your meetings run a bit smoother and they finish a bit earlier. So hopefully this was really productive to you all.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, everyone, for joining. See you now.